Hey guys, this is Abby with Homegrown Home Sewn, the quilt shop in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm also the designer of Reverse Shot. This is my second pattern launched with Archer and Arrow Co. So thank you so much for buying the pattern. If you haven't purchased the pattern yet, you can still do that. We made plenty, don't worry. But I did talk in the pattern about how this is a 96-inch quilt. It is massive. Not everyone wants to make a quilt that large, I understand that. So I did not include the fabric requirements for anything smaller than a 96-inch square in the pattern. However, I am going to give you those now. And then what you'll do is take the fabric requirements I give to you and you will use the same cutting guide right in here so you can make however many you want of block 1, however many you want of block 2, and you'll be good to go. All right, are we ready? Get a pen and paper if you're not ready. Okay, so this is block 1. I'll talk about that first, then I'll talk about block 2. In this quilt, my gray or Vaporous by Art Gallery Pure Solids is my background. And then my Mediterrano by Art Gallery Pure Solids is my contrast, just so you have a reference on what I'm talking about. Okay, so for block 1, to make one block 1, which will end up being a 32-inch quilt square, you will need 3/4 of a yard of your background, 5/8 of a yard of your contrast, and 1/3 of a yard for binding. If you want to make one block 2, you're going to need a 1/2 yard of background, 5/8 of a yard of contrast, and 1/3 of a yard of binding. Now, you might go, 1 square? Well, it's 32 inches, guys. One of these squares is 32 inches, which would make a great baby blanket, baby quilt, wall hanging, especially seasonal, or a table topper. So just making one of these is a great way to practice, get your feet wet if you're a new quilter, and it would be the perfect size for that. Now, if you're like, I want a little bigger, but not 96-inch square, okay, well, let's bump up and let's make 4 blocks, okay? That will give you a 64-inch square quilt. So you can either make 4 block 1s, so you're going to multiply what you need for block 1 4 times, or 4 block 2s, multiply what you need that I just mentioned for block 2 times 4. Or what I would do is you would make 2 of each. So essentially your quilt would end up looking like that. Okay, so I'm going to give you the fabric requirements now for block 1 and for block 2 to make 2 of each, which will equal a 64-inch quilt. Okay. Now, I have broken down the background into block 1 and block 2, not in all together, in case you want to do a scrappy version. All right. So to make 2 block 1s, that's this one up here, you need 1.5 yards of background, 1.25 yards of contrast. To make 2 block 2s, you're going to need 1 yard of background and 1.25 yard of contrast. Then to finish off the entire quilt at 64-inch square, you're going to need a 1/2 yard for binding. Like I said, you'll take these fabric requirements, you will use my cutting guide in the pattern to cut all your pieces and assemble the blocks as you would, just you'll only have 4 of them instead of all 9. All right, so don't forget, I mentioned this in the quilt, in the pattern, I'll show you. Don't forget to hashtag with Reverse Shot Quilt so I can see the versions you make. All right, thanks for joining me.